Hey, 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 ya, hey, 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 ya, hey, 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 ya, hey, hey, hey. Fly, 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 fly down to, fly down to, fly down to the res.
Welcome to another episode of Driving to the Res with your favorite hosts, Inelia and Larry. I couldn't say the words.
You got double mouth.
Hilary and Lilary.
Well. Here's your message for today. Where did I get this message?
From the quotes book that you can find at ineliabenz.com.
Yeah, just go.
You can buy the physical book.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Or you can go to the digital one if you scroll down to the bottom and say quotes right there.
Yeah. Today.
And I think there's also a quotes.ineliabenz.com.
Yeah, it is. It's quotes.ineliabenz.com. But if you go to ineliabenz.com, scroll to
down.
the bottom, you'll see it.
Okay.
It says get your message.
Okay. What's the message for us this week?
It's a very appropriate one because today, we want to talk about
channeling
stuff.
Information. Channeled information.
Channeled information. Yeah, this quote today is, we all have a right to choose the nature of communication we have with others.
Very, very appropriate.
Yeah. What do you mean? What does this message even mean? We have a right to choose the nature of communication we have with others.
Well, within the context of when that was written, it meant that if somebody comes to you with an invitation to low-frequency engagement, it is your choice whether to say yes and fight with them, argue with them or whatever, or to say no and walk away or change the frequency of that communication completely.
And respond with the frequency that
you want to communicate with.
Mm-hmm. Ah, nice. Yeah, I did that just the other day.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you did.
And yeah, it was a rather lower frequency engagement invitation, and I just responded with the answer to the invitation that I would have preferred to receive, I guess,
Can you talk about it, or is it like confidential?
Well, it's not super confidential. It's just my auntie occasionally will text me.
Oh,
and oftentimes
yes.
it seems like in the weekend evening, so I think that could be not the what the word is, drunk dialing.
Yes, drunk texting.
Yeah. So occasionally those are not super highest frequency, I'd say.
Like very low.
A lot of victim aggressor stuff in it occasionally. Yeah. I got it. So I answered it as if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the rest of the conversation went fine.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised because last time I did that, I really didn't get any answer.
Right, but at least it's something.
And then a week later, I tried it again on a different text, and the answer was more in the we came to neutral.
Yeah.
Came a little to neutral. Yeah. There wasn't any more victim aggressor in it.
That's good.
Yeah, it was kind of nice. Mm-hmm. So that's an example of picking it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It turned out, ignoring it wasn't actually effective either.
Right.
It just seemed like ignoring it was
aggravating
it. Yeah. Instigating more.
Yeah.
Because it pushed right. It was a communication that, in a sense, aligned with the victim energy of the posts,
right?
Of the texts.
Yeah, because you say you abandoned me, you don't care about me, you used me, and
so
now
you're
giving me a truck, and you're supposed to give me a truck, and now you just used me and ignored me, and blah blah. Yeah. So if you do ignore her, it's validating that, and she becomes even more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically what this quote is about. And with the context of what we would like to talk about today, which is channeled information, the nature of that communication indeed is very dependent on us, but also the interpretation of information we get when channeling information, how we interpret that is very much dictated by our own predisposition and frequency. I've seen that over and over again.
Yeah, channeled information. If you don't know what channeled information is, well, how would you describe it? Because I've been to a few, like not like a seance, but a gathering, and there would be a channeler there, and the channeler would basically go from talking like we're talking right now, and they're just like regular old Tom, Dick, or Harry, just and we talk about stuff. Okay, hold on a second, and then they go close their quiet, and they'd change their
frequency persona.
Somehow they would go meditate for a moment, or they'd be quiet, or they go inside.
Sometimes their accent changes, sometimes their voice changes.
Something
coming
to
through.
go from their present state, like we are at, normal state of talking, to an altered personality, what it looks like. Like Abraham Hicks,
yes,
Esther, and a few others. And then they will begin a conversation. And in the conversation, when it's a real-time conversation, the information that they would share is information that you wouldn't imagine they have access to on a normal basis. And it would be information that you have probably never heard before, or if you have heard it before, it's only because you probably listened to a lot of channeled information.
Right.
Otherwise, it'd be like, what? I never heard anything like that before. Or if it's in response to a personal question, they would seem to have access to information that you didn't share and they had no way of accessing. It's like a broader awareness set. But also, if you listen to much channel information, you find proclamations that are grandiose and sometimes and seem to be, foretelling events in the future that, honestly, in my experience, don't ever seem to come to pass, despite like super high quality information up to a point of proclamation. It's like there's a relationship that's established and a line of data that's like very, very interesting, right? And resonant even. And it goes down this trail, and after a month or 2 or 3, maybe even a year, because some of these are really long conversations, there'll be a, oh my God, you have got to sit down, because now the world's going to end on Tuesday at 3 o'clock, unless you X, Y, Z or whatever, you know.
And then on Tuesday at 3, we postponed it.
Yes, it always gets postponed, it gets cancelled, it gets shifted, it gets changed, all the way up to there, and then it goes for about, I've seen it go for another few months of postponements. Even the channeler saying, I'm not going to channel them anymore because they're lying, obviously, since none of these things are coming true. And then, of course, a month or so later, they can't resist and they go back to it. Say, I don't trust you, or you have to prove you're who you say you are.
They don't prove it, and they continue.
Yes, that kind of a thing.
And some people have been waiting for some of these things since the 1960s or 20s. They're still waiting for whatever to happen, like the mass landing of UFOs and whatnot, right?
Right. So when I think of it and I say channeled information, there's several different kinds of interactions with it. The interaction where you have a storyline, and along, like, here's the real history of the world, here's what really went on. Those ones are a long conversation with a channeled group or an individual. And they might like the council of the nine, or the Egyptian gods, or alien group of Pleiadians, or on and on and on, right? Lots of different groups would like say they are the author of this channeled information, and the channeler has managed to tap into them through their diligence and their work, or their openness to receive the communication. That everybody would receive it if only they would, get to that same frequency, whatever it might be. Or often the case is that human is a human born from that group, and they have a special connection that allows them to,
same consciousness.
share their communications. That's one kind. And then another kind is where you can literally just have a back and forth conversation like Abraham Hicks does. And that one,
she said she's part of that group too.
Right.
But not as, evolved or whatever she says it, right?
Right.
In her daily life.
Yeah. So they are a little bit kind of a different interaction. Different intent even. I don't remember hearing Abraham Hicks saying any day, Tuesday or Wednesday, the world was going to end.
No, that's true. I never heard that.
I've never heard her bring that to be. So she was always I want to have a conversation to alter the way that you interact with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Or adjust the way you interact with the world so that you're, in their words, more of a high frequency.
Right.
Okay. So those different channeled aspects, right?
Yes.
What the heck is going on? Because, I mean, when you get caught up in one of those, you are totally hook, line, and sinker loving every single second of it. Oftentimes to the, you will minimize anything that doesn't resonate. You'll just maximize and really latch on to what does resonate. Mm. It's like we're here on the planet, live in harmony with each other kind of a message. And we should gather in groups and meditate and, share our suppers and raise our frequencies, and that, all good message, all good stuff. And then at some point or other, not always, but more often than not, there'll be a big day that needs prepared for, or a big event. Mm-hmm. The event, I'm sure you've heard of the event. Mm-hmm. I don't know which one is the event, but there's been a lot of the events.
I know, it's been a lot. Yeah.
Why is that? What is going on with all that? It seems like it gets you all hyped and hoped up on hopium. And it does seem like it gets your frequency and your attention and your intention all pointed in the right direction, but it seems like it gets hijacked.
At some point, yeah. My experience with channelers hasn't been that broad. No. I've had situations where individuals that I've known, mystics that I've known, channel information from different, what they call councils and things. And that's interesting, and I scan it, and I try it, and I look at it. And what I have found, there was one particular lady who was in the same event that I was, one of the speakers, and she was channeling several collectives. One of them was the fairies, another one was an alien species.
I remember her.
Yeah, and what shocked and surprised me was that as she was pulling in the different collectives into her body and allowing them to speak through her, they were actually there.
Yeah.
They were actually there. And I could hear and feel the communication in my mind before she would open her mouth and say the exact same things. Express the exact same images and information that I was seeing, that they were putting out. So I thought, wow, she's genuine, really genuine. And I liked her a lot. And I talked about her, and her audience exploded when I talked about her. And everything goes well and good until she got really hijacked by the whole political system in the US.
Oh,
and she followed one of the
burner.
Yeah, and I said, you be aware this is a trap. There is no good guy or bad guy. There's just it's a play. Yeah. Right? It's all made up. It's reality TV. Reality TV is fully scripted. So don't go into that hole. Don't get sucked into that, because that's gonna pollute everything, and it's gonna just take your attention away from what you are doing, which is channeling all these amazing entities and people and information. Mm-hmm. She didn't listen. No. So I kind of dropped her. It's like, no, I'm not gonna feed that anymore, because she's been fully hijacked. So that's one way in which a person like that can be hijacked. They're not necessarily full of wisdom themselves, and it's one of the things that, all these entities, I don't know if they were telling her don't do it or whatever, but something got in there and told her to do it. So the hijacking part is very easy to happen. It can happen very easily. And I've seen it over and over and over again, how people can get hijacked when channeling information. And there's some channeling works that are very, very famous, and they're absolutely amazing. And then at some point, either the person dies, or some of them have just stopped. But a lot of the time, they just get hijacked. And I remember there was one guy I read about, and I was reading his channeled information, And I thought, this is absolute BS. This is all hijacked. I thought to myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I dropped him. And about 5 years later, he came up. He had gone away for a while, stopped the channelings. And then he came back and said, ignore everything I've said up to this point. It was all bullshit and it was all hijacked. And now I can see that the responsibility of this is enormous. And I had been hijacked, and this is why. And he actually delineated everything that I'd seen about his channeling information, all the hijackings that he'd had. And he was totally against it, like, you know, against channeling and the pitfalls of, and how a person can get hijacked when they're channeling. And yeah, like you said, 95% of the information can't be pure and absolute, and people resonate with it. Mm-hmm. So when the false information starts coming in, people ignore it, but it goes in subconsciously, and then, well, everything else has been right. This must be right too. They give away their authority, right?
Right. And I remember some of the time that I was interested in a lot of this channeled stuff. You wrote something along the lines to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes.
if they're hijacked, just throw the whole damn thing out.
Yes.
Ignore it all.
Ignore it all. Just throw it away. And, it's not really worth for a person to put themselves in that situation of not knowing, right, what is right, what is wrong, what is accurate, what isn't. If you've taken the truthing class that I gave, you have a better chance of figuring out the baby from the bathwater, because then, especially if you do all the exercises and train yourself around it, and you can find that at ineliabenz.com in the store. So you do have a chance to get it right. But if you haven't done it, chances are you won't be able to. So it's not really worth that risk, really.
Yeah, the risk is, basically what happens to someone who becomes interested in this information. Mostly is they become very, very, very enthusiastic about it, and oftentimes they start to share it with their friends and family. Mm-hmm. And there are some of their friends and family that think, that's interesting. Other ones like, oh shit, what's going on? So it's like it's a bit of a push, or you just become very, very enamored, and then you start to shut out everyone around you who's going to think you're crazy because you're listening to this stuff, maybe. And you get into another group of people, maybe. And it gets to that point where it's hijacked.
Yes.
And at the hijack point, you are probably fully involved, and you're like, oh, I don't know about that, but they've been right about everything else. So you buy it for a while, and you maybe even share some of this with some of the people you care about, because it's like very important information that's going to affect everybody on the planet.
Right.
Like maybe sometimes it's end of the world, but sometimes it's like aliens are going to land in Philadelphia at 3:00. You just have to be there, And your parents or your friends or whatever, what the heck are you going to Pennsylvania for? And you say, I can't tell you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you go and you find it doesn't happen and nothing goes there, and then you're like, throw away everything.
Right, including the good information.
It's like, I'm not going to waste any more of my time with this. I'm going to go to the bar and have a glass of wine, because obviously the other stuff was horse hockey. Mm-hmm. I could just have a wine if I want and watch some TV. Mm-hmm. There's some good shows coming on. Just drop this hooey balooey. That happens.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's the main aspect of hijackings, that the person will then throw everything away, including the good stuff.
Which is ironic, since the first advice is to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Mm-hmm. That's before.
Yeah, exactly.
After.
So the thing is, there's always red flags when a person is listening to another person's channeled information. If you get red flags and you do the truthing exercises on it, and if it comes false, then just throw it away. There's other people, there's other channeled information, there's other things that are 100% accurate. Go there.
Yeah, if you're going to pay your attention where it's all accurate.
Exactly.
Or at least not littered with a trillion red flags.
What are the red flags? To me personally are...
Good point. What are the red flags? Give me
when
a few.
A person or the channeled information requests that you give away your authority, or gives a really big, strong hopeism energy, right? That you wait, just wait, don't do anything because it's coming. when it gives the authority ways, like saviors are coming, deities are going to save us, somebody else is going to save us, or somebody else is going to fix the world, somebody else is going to do this, just wait, right? Or, and it's that type of thing. Anything that gives away your authority, to me, is a red flag. I will fix it for you. There's people who say that. That's a red flag, right?
Right.
And I'm the only person who can help you is also a red flag. These entities are the only people or the only beings that can help us is a red flag.
Like their authority is proclaimed in some way beyond and above any and all authority.
Yes,
like
including yours, particularly yours.
Like this, the Council of Nine one.
Right.
I am the beginning, I am the end, I am the emissary. But the original time I was on planet Earth was 34,000 years ago. I am the balance, and when I say I mean I am the emissary for the nine. It is not I, but it is the group. We are 9 principles of the universe together as one. Mm-hmm. It's hard to argue with that authority.
Right.
They are the beginning and the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that would be a red flag.
It is a red flag. Now, with that bit of information, sometimes the channeler, because they have a program of giving away their authority, can interpret that in a way that is erroneous, right? So when I read that particular passage, I could very quickly say, well, that could have been misinterpreted, for example. Yeah. So that channeler, that one that's interpreting those words, is not somebody to listen to. However, if you look at the energy of it, to me, if you change that energy into the person who's listening, saying those words, then it starts to make more sense. Right? Do you see? So if the person listening is the I am the beginning, I am the end, I am the balance of 9 energies on the planet, and I was balanced, as in came fully on, 35,000 years ago on the planet, then it starts to make sense, doesn't it? Because at some point in the past, a few thousand years ago, it could have been 35,000, maybe less or maybe more. We decided as a species here on the planet to have a power over others experience, and that is an unbalanced experience. Do you see?
Yep.
So that's why, like, channeled information, sometimes when you look at it, you tap into it, you can see where it went wrong, where the interpretation or the translation went wrong. Because if you see it from the perspective of the person listening, that they are the beginning, they are the end, they used to be balanced and embodied 9 aspects of the universe.
Mm-hmm. 9 principles of the universe together. Together
in balance. If they were that, the person listening, then it says, I get a yes, it is true. And now most of the people here on the planet, we are unbalanced. But if we were to embody that again as a species, then we would be balanced again. And then we would be part of the universe again at a conscious level, not a subconscious level. Do you see? So that we come to the forefront. So it's all about interpretation. And I'm not saying that the council, is it the Council of 9 or whatever, the 9?
That was a typical Council of 9 message, and it's grandiose.
If you give your power away, and if you interpret it from a power over others and godly energy sense, it is indeed like that, grandiose. But I can tell you that each person who's listening to this podcast is a universal, eternal, divine being. What does that mean? They are the entire universe embodied.
The beginning and the end, and all of those principles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you see? So do you see how that can be misinterpreted?
Oh, yeah.
And how it has been misinterpreted and used and hijacked in ways to control the masses.
It's something that, with separation, you can give your authority to.
Yes.
Or feel you ought to give your authority to.
Mm-hmm. Or want to give your authority.
Want to give your authority to, even.
Because you're still playing the victim aggressor and the limited aspect of yourself and the power over others game. You're still wanting to play that. You still want to be a child, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to grow up. You don't want to be the authority of your own life. So then, you would interpret those things in that way.
Easy to do.
Mm-hmm. It is.
So, when we watch just sliding, because the Council of Nine is somehow in some way connected to Star Trek, Deep Space Nine.
Yes, and Gene
Roddenberry.
Yeah, Star Trek, the Council of Nine.
That kind of thing. They're kind of interconnected in some way. Of course, because all you can do is read other people's analyzations of what they consider this and that and the other.
Right.
What we see when we watch Star Trek is things that we mostly couldn't have imagined. Although when we watch it, then we start to imagine, for example, life on other planets and how it might go on. And
so Star
Trek life and
not the original series Star Trek, but the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, all of those that came after were my favorite shows in my life, right? I would watch absolutely all of them, and I would love everyone.
Yeah.
I loved that show until something happened within the shows that changed everything. And then I found out that Gene Roddenberry had died. Right? And
really?
The writer team had changed. Now, I haven't checked the data on this, right? But if you want to, you listener can go and research it. There's allegedly recordings of channeled information by the Council of Nine. There was an author, a guy who used to channel them. I think it was in the 70s. I can't exactly remember when. But he used to channel the Council of Nine. And there's recordings of these channelings. And in those recordings, there's Gene Roddenberry's voice asking questions. Right? Mm-hmm. His voice and himself and by name asking questions to these people, these entities. And again, when I tap into that information, it feels true and real. And one of the things that gave me a big question mark, I can't remember what year Gene Roddenberry died, but I do remember the situation because some friends and I were extremely excited that he was going to do a press release where he said he was going to reveal all of where all the information and all the ideas for Star Trek had come. And he was going to reveal it all. And everybody, all the fans, because I was a fan, were uber excited. Right? Where did he get his inspiration from, right? Looking at it from a perspective of an audience that didn't think about channeled information or anything else. So, extremely excited, waiting for the day, and the day was advertised and everything. I tried to look for Gene Roddenberry's last PR release or whatever, so I haven't been able to find it anymore. But at the time, it was well known to a lot of fans. This was going to happen, and we were very, very excited because I was totally a Trekkie.
Yeah.
And then a few days or a day before or the day of or a week before, I can't remember when it was very close to that date, he died.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So he was never able to do the press release.
Dang it.
I know.
It's like, ugh.
So when that happened, all of my alarm things went ding, 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 right? I thought, what the hell? So I started touching base with some people that I knew that were whistleblowers. I worked with whistleblowers and other individuals, and I just started trying to get some information, and that's the first time I ever heard about the Council of Nine and the channeled information and all that type of thing. And when I looked at it, and I started to tap into the truth of and the interpretation of the whole Star Trek series with regards to the Council of Nine information or any other channeled information. Mm-hmm. And what I got was a dissonance, a very big dissonance between the two. Mm-hmm. That in some aspects, yes, he had tapped into and used some of that information, right? Him and his co-writers or whatever, I think there was a team of writers. But that there had been a higher level of governance, decision, and contract to hijack that information and make it into a soap opera, a space opera.
Right.
A space opera means that, yeah, there's one or two species or more species who are at war, and Earthlings are in the middle of it, and we're gonna, be saved by the good guys, so we need to grow up and become more warmongering and go out and defend ourselves and blah, 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 right? When I tapped into that, the whole war thing, I knew it was false. There was nothing about intergalactic wars or battles of the empires or anything like that. That was the human small power over others game on Earth being projected on and overlaid upon the information that wanted to come out from this channeled information. And it was very, very, very different. And often when you look at the series and you watch the series, you can pick up both streams. You can pick up, especially with the Next Generation and Deep Space Nines, you can pick up the actual information, which is a very deep feeling of empowerment and peace, and a society which is run through compassion and the feeding of creativity and skill, where everybody really is supported in a big, big way. And there are no limits about what a person can have. As opposed to the whole space opera of people are always trying to kill us, there's buddies out there, they're trying to destroy us, the human collective, they overtake us, turn us into drones and enslave us and all that type of stuff. There's two streams of energy running throughout, which is really interesting to me. But yeah, this whole space opera part is the human construct that's put into and on top of the other stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Gene himself was hijacked through, we'll give you millions of dollars, and you're going to get super famous and all the usual egoic
drugs, girls, rock and roll.
Whatever, yeah, right?
Gold.
So that's how it feels. But at some point in his life, he changed his mind and he thought it wasn't worth it. We really need to give out what the information's about. And, actually, the information, when you look at it, the actual information behind that channeling is boring to a person who's addicted to drama. Drama sells. Drama sells tickets for your movies. Drama sells tickets to your TV shows. A lot of money and revenue by drama. But if you actually gave the synopsis of the trajectory, in the drama aspect, there's none. So that doesn't sell tickets.
No.
Right? But it kind of, so the whole thing was hijacked at that level and pulled down. One of the things I found interesting also that we also read somewhere was that Uri Gueller was involved in this whole channeling of the Council of Nine, and other individuals who run with the information, but that Uri Gueller dropped it at some point. Uri Gueller is very ego-driven, a very ego-driven person. And I remember in the year 1999, I think it was, I ordered a book from him, and at the time he wasn't doing very well financially because all his enterprises and things were collapsing around him, and for some reason his audience turned against him. And from my perspective, it was because at that moment in time he chose to guide people into enlightenment rather than the drama of bending metal or whatever, right? He decided, I think him and his wife decided that it was going to be something else. It's going to be, I have all this influence, I have all this power, I can really teach people about enlightenment, right?
Yeah.
And growth, and how they can use these things, the whole, CD things,
Yep.
Without enlightenment doesn't go very far, whatever. So he wrote this amazing book, and I haven't found it again. It might be out there still, but I haven't actually found it again. That was all about growth and I thought, wow, dude, you really did it. Because again, he was one of my heroes. You know, I loved his personality and everything. So he had this offer of, if you write me a letter, I will send you a signed book.
Sweet.
Right? So I wrote him a letter, and he indeed sent me a signed book.
Ah, cool.
Right? And in the letter, you had to give your address, your phone number, and everything, so you can use it to send you the book.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That sounds like fishing.
I know, right?
So
a few days later...
Making a list.
Yeah. A few days later, of course, I get a phone call from him.
Whoa.
Uri Gueller. And he was talking to me. We were talking for about 2 hours on the phone. International call must have cost him a fortune. I was in Madrid at the time, living in Madrid, and I remember the living room and tapping into his field of awareness. And he was on the edge of, go back to that egoic construct and get my money back and get my fortune back and not have to lose all my acquisitions or continue in this path.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and he was like very keen on, if you organize a few people, I'll come over to Madrid and I'll give a talk and, we can work together. And then it just felt the ego, taking over. And I went, no, and my hero died, It's like, it just died. And I was so like heartbroken because I could feel it. I could feel that desperation or that fear of losing it all, which I've seen in other famous people too, was right there. And it was like a juncture, and he was going the other way, and there was nothing I could do. It's like, I don't have any contacts in Madrid. I can't, offer you this. I can't create an event for you to come so that you can move forward with this, And it was like crack, like a crack. And oh my God, when you're a young person and one of your heroes dies in your phone, I cried for days, It's like, it was heartbreaking.
Well, so people understand, because, I have an idea of what you're meaning, how it was that it broke, but what do you mean specifically? How did it break? Because there's many people who would say, oh, well, he wants to do an event with you, or have you organize an event for or with him. It sounds like a grand invitation. How does it interpreted as breaking it?
How would you interpret it? What do you think happened?
Well, what I'm trying to do is say that it's not easily or clearly understood to people who might be listening how him calling you and asking after a long conversation, maybe gather some people, we can come have a talk, how that would be destroying anything in your mind.
Well, that wasn't, it was almost like, I can't remember the exact conversation, but the bits that I do remember, it was almost like, I will do anything. I will say whatever you want as long as you can organize this for me. It wasn't from the purity of, this is my message, right?
Right.
It was almost like he had already passed the point of, I tried this and it failed on me and now I'm losing an entire fortune. So I'll do anything. I'll say whatever you want me to say. Right? Just tell me what your audience wants to hear and I'll say that.
Right.
Do you see?
Yeah, of course. And when you say it that way, easily, yeah. You can see that. Mm-hmm. But it's like, of course, naturally speaking from experience, when I hear something like that, it sounds like a poor little kitten in the gutter who needs brushed off and fluffed back up. Get back on mission, mister, and here's what you're here for. And I'll tell you what you need to say, which is what you're supposed to say. And you're not supposed to X, Y, Z. In other words,
right.
Save him.
Right, because you have that energy in you. You have the savior energy.
Yeah, and it's hard.
And you always think the best of people.
Right.
And you have taken kittens out of the gutter and brushed them and put them out into the world, and they scratch everybody,
Pretty much. I don't have 100% track record of success.
No.
In that matter. No, it does seem that there's a general misunderstanding that you can change another. That if you input, XYZ into another person, you can change them into what it is that you hold as your image of them, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is that they are who they are, and they will stay or change who they are only based on themselves.
Yes.
They're not. It isn't your input that changes them.
No, it doesn't. Mm-mm.
But what words you're saying, the inputs that you're giving, really are just taken by them and their own hearing to reinforce what it is that they are mostly basically going to do anyway. So in the case of Uri, for example, if you said, okay, yes, and you brought him in and you told him what it is that he should say, and in the sense of telling him he needs to say what he's here to say, not what anybody tells him to say, he's only going to hear the parts that reinforce the
whatever
reality he's
decision,
chosen, the
yeah,
decision
exactly.
he's already made it.
Right.
So it will appear to you like you've helped him, but in fact it's not different, right?
And since then, I remember watching him in a show with a really, really famous young street magician, a trickster.
I remember recently, yeah.
Yeah, it was a few years ago now, and you could see his face, like saying, "Oh my God, I can't do this," type thing.
Yeah.
Right? They were going to do a whole series of shows, and his face was just like defeat, when the other guy was going on and doing his whole drama thing and his tricks and drama and everything else, and he's just watching him, and the face on Uri Gueller, I thought, dude, just step away, man, just step away. And he did. He stopped the series. He didn't continue with it. Yeah. But then very recently I saw him when somebody with authority said, yep, he did work for the CIA, because he'd been saying for years, I used to work for the CIA and I worked for them and I did this for them and I was a spy for them and I did this and this and the other for them.
Yep.
And nobody believed him. Everybody thought he was a total BS, right?
Trying to use it to make himself more
important and authoritative.
Yeah.
And even the CIA said, we don't know who this person is.
Of course.
And then this person of authority said, yep, that's right. Uri Gueller was part of this team and we worked for the CIA and everything else. And he was so happy. He was so happy. I told everybody, it's like, I'm not born American, but I believe in America and I worked for the CIA, to forward the freedom and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, oh my God, dude, really? Are you really saying that? And it was all ego again.
Yeah.
His ego always takes him over. But does he have abilities? Does he have skills? Can he channel? Can he bend spoons? Can he do all these things? Yes, he can. And I can tell you one thing. I don't know if anybody else can find that book anymore. It's probably out of print. But it was the most beautiful book I had seen in my life.
Wow.
It was gorgeous. It was full of beauty, magic, feeling, mysticism. It was amazing. It was the most amazing book. I used to look at it. I used to open it up and read the messages in it just with a flower in my heart, It was so good. It was like it gave you that sense of, we're on the right track. Human Collective can do this. We can, step up and awaken and all these things. But it was a moment in time in his life. And he did it. And then his fears took over. And as soon as his fears took over, of course, he became part of that victim-aggressor of the paradigm of power over others.
He basically became drivable, too.
Yes.
So he could be steered by others.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's, I think, the whole point of power over others. And that's why, I guess, the number one tool I think you brought to the awareness of everyone is the fear processing tool.
Yeah, and one of the things he said, I remember, because I wanted to talk to him about the book, when we talked, and he was saying, he said, I'm not sure if I did the right thing with this book. I'm really glad you like it, but haven't had many sales, and
I know it's so depressing when he's like, the most ideal thing in the world doesn't get much.
It's shadow banned, right?
Shadow banned, or much publisher action, or much attention, but it's pure and real. It's such a paradox.
It is, yeah.
But if you look at...
just before we continue with him, about books, shadow banned and whatevers, just to let everybody know,
Yes.
that the Earth Files,
The Earth Files,
the second book of the Return series
the
by
real
Inelia
second book,
Benz,
your second
is
book of the...
published.
It's published?
And if you get it before the end of June 2022,
This is like...
you were going to get a bonus invitation to a Q&A with me, the author, in July.
A July Q&A call on the Earth Files?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. This is going to be a great call.
So if you get that book...
Yeah, get it before the 5th. Well, where do you got to get it?
IneliaBenz.com, of course.
Okay, at IneliaBenz.com.
Mm-hmm. And Lulu.com. If you want
get
the
it
physical
Lulu, you get it too?
Yeah, the physical copy is at Lulu.com.
Right.
And the digital copy is at IneliaBenz.com in the store.
So to get an invitation, do you have to buy the...
Either. You're going to get the invitation with
either one of them you'll get it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
super. Or both.
You can get both.
I'd like to get both if it were me, because I like to have the physical book on the shelf
and the digital
and the digital one in my stuff, so I can read it either which way I want. Yes, and I love to touch the book.
Me too.
It just feels good to touch it.
I know.
You know, the power goes out and you have a candle, you still have the book.
Exactly. Sometimes, my favorite books, I have them in both formats. All of them.
Me too, always.
Because I always think, well, if we lose the power or whatever's, or the digital age ends, I'll have my book. I don't ever
want to not have it in some form.
Yeah.
I want it to be a part of my life forever, right? Kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah, I agree. So,
going back to the Council of Nine, Uri Gueller and his book, and
I was going to say, and I lost it because you excited me too much. That distraction was just too much. Okay, no, I got it. So, the drama that sells. I think that's related to the purpose and the reason so many souls came to the planet to have drama games in Light, Dark, Real. It was so interesting. And it's that
it's a different type of interesting, yeah.
That's what drama... I mean, we can tell the story of almost every movie in a 4-5 scene plot, right?
Yes.
Boy meets girl, boy and girl fall in love, boy and girl get in a fight, girl and boy go off somewhere else and realize how much they love each other, and they get back together at the end. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's 100 romance novels, 1,000 movies. Mm-hmm. They're the same plot. Mm-hmm. But it's the experience and how it's dramatized that makes this story better than that story, or this one interesting, even though it's the same one, but there's different colored hair and there's different colored eyes. And, it's how the story's going to go. We already know from the start, but it's very, very interesting. Yeah. It's kind of like why we could have 10,000 lives on the planet. Almost the same cycle. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it might be related. But as we move through a split, we're shifting from one set of this is what I'm interested in to a different set of this is what I'm interested in.
Exploration, right? Creativity, expansion of awareness, the exploration of different species. And that's what comes back to the communication stuff, channeled information, getting to know new species. To me, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I want to read a little bit of one channeled message.
From?
The most recent one from Arcturians.
Oh, this is not the Council of Nine?
No. Okay. We're going to shift channels a little bit because I don't know much about the Council of Nine.
The Council of Nine?
Council of Nine.
Okay.
I mean, I liked Star Trek. I really loved the space. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that Star Trek and the Council of Nine were linked in any way, shape, or form.
And I've heard different data points about the link between the two.
Yeah,
and one data point says it was right from the beginning, but the data point that I felt was more truthful talked about how Gene had the connection with the Council of Nine after he had done the first Star Trek series.
Yeah.
So he after the first Star Trek series, he was stuck on what to do next, and he started going to these channeled...
For inspiration in a way?
Yeah, for inspiration, channel things. And then he took a lot of information from there and took it forward into different works. And so that's why I've never actually liked the first Star Trek series, except for a few bits of data, which is like the cell phones and different technologies that I've also heard that the whole thing was written to put in those bits of information to the masses, like the cell phones you click open, like flip open phones. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And other little bits and bobs to start introducing those ideas into the human collective so that when they actually came, they weren't that weird, right?
Totally. Your communicator on Star Trek and your
Yes.
cell phone, flip phone were exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing, right? So I heard that one before, that was information given to him by the government, that he had been working with the government for a long time to add into the scripts and to the stories. Him and the group of writers, right? But the other part also was part of that, and if we think about Uri Gueller working for the CIA, Uri Gueller channeling the Council of Nine, Uri Gueller being listened by Gene Roddenberry, all these things fit together in a very neat way of what do we want to put into the subconscious awareness of the masses, right? It fits very nicely into it. And how do we, because if you have a line of truth and then you wrap up your own message around that line of truth,
Right.
it gets put into this collective because people resonate with truth.
Right. And then they bring along what you've wrapped it
Exactly
in.
what you wrapped it in, yeah.
That's something that we're reading in the Naked Bible book. A little
Oh
bit
my
about that.
gosh, yeah,
like
we have to do a whole series of podcasts on that book, I can tell you.
I know.
I was shocked and surprised, man. Shocked and surprised. If you haven't read that book, you have to go get it and read it.
Yeah, give it a gander.
Yeah.
It's pretty far.
Yeah.
It's just interpreting Hebrew to whatever, just doing the interpretation and then altering and translating words and taking their meaning completely,
How it's written.
how it's written to give a different message is super.
And
apparently it was easy.
And sometimes not even a different message.
Not even a different message.
It's the actual message, right? Yeah.
Well, it's worth looking at. We're only a quarter of the way in or so I'm not going to give a yeah. I'm just saying, wow, that was some pretty interesting stuff, and I'm going to take a look and I'm going to dig in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because we both had the same kind of experience with church and going there. Yeah, it was like, what the heck?
Yeah. Because
there's a truth and now there's not. What's going on? I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So this, why I was going to share this is just randomly the most recent message.
From?
It's called onenessofall.com.
Okay.
It's channeled information from an Arcturian
Arcturians.
collective.
Okay, Arcturians.
Arcturus is a star. Arcturians are a general race of extraterrestrial.
Okay,
That's
got
how
it.
it's shared.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've been listening and reading these ones since, 2010 or 11.
Mm-hmm.
A long time, and they never stopped, in my mind, being reasonably good.
Oh, okay.
There was never any landing coming of Arcturians that I had to go meet up with.
Mm-hmm.
There was never a day.
Did they call you beloved?
No.
Okay.
It's about oneness, and it was what attracted me to it, because at the time you, on 2010-11, you had said something about oneness being a state of being.
Mm-hmm.
And it was unclear to me what exactly that was.
So you went for an explanation.
So I had to go look for what is it all about. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I found was the book Oneness.
Oh, yeah. By
Russia. And Journey to Oneness.
Oh,
those books became like my Bible, basically.
Yeah.
And
so journey books.
The
journey book is nice.
My journey.
Yeah.
When I read it, I had a journey experience. Each one of those it was the strangest book, I swear. Read a couple of lines or a couple of pages, and that's all I could read.
And then you would have that experience in physical life.
Or I would go through a thing in my life, and then I'd pick up the book, and the next 3 pages had to do with what I just experienced. And when
I've heard that a lot about those people, yeah.
When I joined a group of people who have been reading that book, they had the same experiences happening to them.
And what happened to that group?
It's still current. It still happens.
Yeah.
It's not like a...
Is it an online group, or is it a physical group, or...
Well, there's a Facebook page and that kind of a thing.
Oh, okay, got
There's
it.
not a...
It's not a
There's
group.
supposed to be. If you read The Journey to Oneness, what she's supposed to be doing is...
Giving classes.
Doing a physical
events.
Where people can share their... gather their tribe,
Yeah.
But she's not exactly... She's exactly a lone wolf.
That didn't happen, huh?
Right, so it's not happened yet.
Right.
Doesn't mean it won't, but it still hasn't yet happened.
Yeah. I sure hope she hasn't been hijacked and jabbed and stuff.
I hope so too. I know the last communications I had with her, she actually emailed me a few times. I told her the reason that she was having this much difficulty is because she, as she has shared, is supposed to be doing these things in a physical way and not in a
I remember that,
way.
yeah.
And she never answered me ever again. Like, oopsie.
Yeah, I remember you said that to her.
I wish. Well, anyways, that book and that journey, I mean, that's not complete yet. It's still an ongoing thing. And this onenessofall.com Arcturian channeled information, I don't know how to. Here, I'll give a sample.
Yeah, just
Here's
give
a sample. And you can tell me what you feel about it.
Yeah.
This is the end of the most current message.
Okay.
When you are happy, doing what you love, your energy vibrates at a higher frequency, because love and joy are the reality. Because there is only one, the state of your consciousness affects everyone else. Spending time in the nature, smelling and appreciating the beauty of a flower, watching children play, reading a good book, talking with friends, doing work you love, or engaging in a creative activity that you enjoy are all spiritual activities because they lift your energy into a higher frequency. The belief that you are not being spiritual when you engage in activities other than conscious worship or formal prayer reflects old religious teachings and dogmas that remain alive and well even today. Teachings that say the enjoyment of ordinary human living is not spiritual are still prevalent in some churches, even to the point of dictating rules regarding which activities exactly are spiritual and are permitted, and which are sins worthy of punishment. It has long been taught that suffering brings a person closer to God, that in order to become holy, a person must suffer, and offer the suffering to God in reparation for their innate human sinfulness, as if God could be happy in the suffering of itself individualized. Some believe that if they aren't suffering enough, they must help things along through activities that bring about physical pain. If suffering existed in divine mind, it would be permanently held in place by divine law, never to be healed or changed. I don't understand what that means, but these teachings began long ago because they allowed those in power, especially religious power, to control and take from the lives of a majority that was uneducated and naive. Most of you have lived lives under the influence of these beliefs and may find that they occasionally pop up in your thinking about suffering. Suffering can indeed be a wake-up call for those who need it, but concepts about suffering giving pleasure to God must be seen for the nonsense they represent and once and for all be let go. Know that God does not, never has, and never will take pleasure in the suffering of itself as you.
Really accurate, 100%.
Wow.
A++.
This is, like I said, this is the one that stuck around and has never really gone wayward for me. And the end of it is, but now, if we looked at the entirety of the message to see if there's anything wrapped around that truth, what will we find? Let's see, we'll take a random paragraph. Yeah, many young people today are rejecting commonly accepted three-dimensional rules and regulations to the dismay of their parents. Large numbers of very evolved souls chose to incarnate at this time in order to add the light of their evolved consciousness to the collective. Does that sound right?
Yep.
The majority of them long ago evolved beyond what the Earth's present-day belief system still considers to be real and important.
Yeah.
To their evolved state of consciousness, many current three-dimensional rules and regulations just seem silly, unimportant, and irrelevant.
Yep, that's accurate.
The density of Earth's energy prevents them from actually remembering who they are and why they came. That's the fog.
Yeah.
They don't understand why they are different and frequently do not fit in with their peers. Because of this, many have become depressed, confused, and even suicidal. However, with time and maturity, most will eventually come to understand that they must play the three-dimensional game a bit in order to be understood by those not yet at their level of awareness and do what they came to do.
Yep, that's accurate.
Parents, do not try to force these children into three-dimensional molds they have evolved beyond. They need loving guidance for living in a world that does not really fully resonate with them, but allow your intuition to guide you rather than societal opinion. Fear is the reason so many continue holding fast to absolute beliefs, even when they have resulted in painful, unfulfilling, and sometimes downright horrible life experiences. Fear is nothing more than an expression of separation consciousness and is the underlying source of every discord on earth.
Yeah, that's what I teach as well.
Huh.
Yeah, so far you haven't read anything that feels untruth or, untruthful or manipulative.
Being light does not mean you must always be consciously thinking of spiritual truths. Once a consciousness of truth and oneness is attained, it's yours forever and will continue to spiritually unfold because consciousness is infinite. Know that you can never revert to an outgrown state of consciousness, even if you should try, as some have done in the hope that it would make life easier.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Yes.
Well, sometimes, often, spending a moment at least in like a paragraph or two, or this comes in an email once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's pretty well grounded. So, even though when we explored channeling, we explored where they get hijacked,
Mm-hmm.
it is also true that they don't get hijacked.
Yes, it is also true that some channelers, these bits that we've read so far, there's absolutely no hijacking in those sentences and those paragraphs. None. So, from that perspective, the best weapon you can use when scanning channeled information is the truthing exercises from the class that it's at my website. That gives you the authority back of what's true, what is not true, what is real, what isn't real, and people and information, and channeled or not, right? Because some people give this information straight out without channeling it from a different entity. There's nothing there that I haven't spoken about.
Nothing.
And that information that I give is not channeled, right?
Right.
So whether it's channeled or not channeled, whether a teacher or channeled whatever's, physical teacher, channel teacher, whatever's, or guide, truth it. Use the exercises, learn how to tell the truth from lies, and be your own authority, your own author of your reality, right? Be that. Embody it. Really, really embody it.
Totally perfect.
Mm.
Okay, honey.
Yeah. Oh, before we say goodbye, a couple more things.
Okay.
So on our Subscribe, Star, and Walk With Me now, we're having a class come up.
Okay,
right?
good.
So, the June class.
The June class.
Make sure you're subscribed to one of those to get to the class.
Walk With Me Now or Subscribe Star.
Don't forget about our second hour for this podcast. It's going to come up in a few days on Subscribe Star and Walk With Me Now.
Right. So if you're interested in this channeling or you have more questions, you're going to probably get some deeper questions. I'm sure Adeline and Inelia are going to have plenty to ask about channeling.
Yes, yeah. And I think it's a conversation we can continue anyways with different aspects of it.
Okay.
Another thing that I wanted to talk to individuals about is that at the moment we've had guidance to increase our newsletter subscriber base.
Right. The number of people
receive information.
Receiving the newsletter.
Exactly.
Just the newsletter,
That's it.
That's it.
The newsletter is free.
It's
right?
free.
And you're going to get bonuses when people subscribe and everything. When you get these newsletters, we have offers and all sorts of things, but also a lot of really good information. Okay?
Generally a good article.
IneliaBenz.com. Go there, subscribe to the newsletter, but also please make this viral. The guidance we received was make this newsletter go viral on the planet. So, our request to you to support us is to share the newsletter and then link to it and encourage all your friends and family and relatives and your email lists to subscribe to the newsletter at IneliaBenz.com. That's all we ask.
Yeah,
right?
that's free.
It's free.
And the articles that come are just like what I read. Information that's empowering, powerful, and not hijacked.
Extremely important at this time. Information also, right?
Right.
That's
because
really very important.
Access to the data is the important part.
Yes.
Right? Supporting the data, supporting the process comes in many ways.
Yes.
your chi, your energy, or it may increase in our ability to do.
Mm-hmm.
Your sharing of the data with those who are looking for it. How do I find it? I'm going to walk down the road, and which mailbox is going to have the data I'm looking for in it?
Yeah.
If you open the mailbox and look in, well, I'm not saying you go to across the street and do that. If you open your email box and it has, hey, I get this newsletter from Inelia Benz. It's been so on spot for the time and the experiences that I've been having. And I thought that you would enjoy it too. If I saw that in my inbox, I would look.
Yes.
So do that.
Right. And one last shout out.
Yes, yes.
We want to thank
Dan Coulter.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. We got the birthday present. I know it took a little while to say thank you, but it's been absolutely fantastic. You send us regular donations.
Yeah, beautiful cards.
Beautiful, beautiful cards and beautiful, beautiful messages. We really appreciate it. It has made a huge difference to our lives. Thank you so much. A big, big thank you to Dan.
Yes.
All right. Do you feel complete, honey?
Yes, complete.
Thank you.
I love you, honey.
I love you too.